Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, where the blueprint to understanding a new and unified world is in our shifting consciousness.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. I have Renee again with me today. Thank you, Renee, for being with me every week. You're such a trooper. How are you today?
I enjoy it. So yay.
Great. All right, today's topic is embracing your inherent divine fire. Like, we both woke up this morning with this burning fire within us, and we need to discuss it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I feel, and the messages that I got today, was like, we are at this point in conscious evolution where we really have to get serious about why the hell we're here. I feel like, moving into the third quarter, we're halfway through the the fourth quarter already of the year of 2023. I think that we need to be like really being conscious leaders of the new earth, and we need to be very intentional. I think that that's what this fiery kind of energy is right now, is like, let's move, let's go, let's blaze the way here. So as conscious beings, let's just say, the responsibility that we take on is generally very, very high. I mean, I've felt that way my whole entire life. At first, I related it to my family, to my original family, and then to the family that I created. And now it's way beyond that. It's about shifting our consciousness. But what I've noticed over time is that it gets confused with human guilt, blame, and shame. And I think that that's where we get stuck. Like, we really get stuck within that sort of paradigm of what does responsibility mean? How am I responsible? And then we take on everyone else's responsibility. And I think that that's the stepping stone of where we are right now. Well, I think we've been there for quite a few years, but I think that we're here facing it and saying, okay, we're moving beyond that. What's really the purpose? Where does my real responsibility lie? And I think that that's why we're experiencing this fire with this new moon, which we don't generally have fire with a new moon, right?
Right.
So, we are experiencing it right now. So, what's your take on that? The whole.
I am totally in agreement with what you're saying. It is time. It's you and I have talked about, and I've said going with the flow or whatever. So many of us use that statement, and going with the flow. Well, there's different definitions for me of flow. For a lot of people, I think going with the flow is just, oh, yep, the family decided to do this, so I'm going along. Oh, yep, the people at work said we should do it like this, so I'm going along. So I'll just go with the flow, even though it doesn't really resonate or align with me. I'm just going to go with the flow. That's not the flow I encourage people to move into, because that's just going along at the same old rate, at the same old pace, and that's not jumping onto the next level or into the next place. I said earlier, it is really time for us to be our own actualized self, so that we can say, this is for the two of you, or this is for these two organizations or groups to figure out, my energy doesn't belong here. It's time for me to be a leader and step outside of it and say, I can support what I know to be true for myself. Anyone else gets to decide that for themselves, right? So moving into what I would call a more unity consciousness is being aware that we all get to decide what we're aligned with. And then we get into that whole thing about, we've talked earlier about, it's like we've lost all morals.
Yeah, I think that this whole responsibility, the human responsibility, I think that that's where it broke down our moral insights. Us being authentic with who we are. Like, I feel like that is the culprit that really broke down our own standards, like personal standards. Like, how many of us have standards about who we are? How many of us actually have a responsibility to yourself, to your own fire that dominates you? Like, literally, it's been entangled and confused and covered up for so many eons that I think that we've just sort of, that it's almost been lost. And I think that it's energetically, I think it's starting to like burn so hot in everyone right now that we can't ignore it any longer. And what does it relate to? Is our authenticity, our morality, our, if we are literally going to move into a new earth without being wiped from the earth, then we have to start looking at these things.
Yeah. And when when we say morality, I'm not saying it's for me to decide anyone else's morals. I'm saying it's time for us to know what our own individual morals are, and they don't have to go along with what anyone else is. And it's time.
Well, I think that they shouldn't. I think that we are such a corrupt world.
Yes.
That we have to do something. I mean, we all came into this world with this deep understanding of our own divine fire, our own purpose. Like, I can remember that. I can go right now to being 1 year old, which I don't have much memory of my younger youth, because with that, I would have just became part of the followers. But I can remember coming in with such a deep burning fire that that I knew that I had to hold, or not necessarily hold, but I had to understand it at a very deep human level, with all the emotions, all the thoughts, all the things, before I could actually allow it to be released. Because I think I probably just sort of burnt up the earth with it, because it was just so, it's so penetrating, like this, we call it this deep love, but it's not, it goes beyond love. It's a deep, like this divine fire, which has really been like almost plaguing me for about a month right now, is this divine fire that we all hold, that burns deep within inside of us, that we actually have to let it be free now. And I think that this is, I say this a lot, this is where we're going to shift our consciousness. But when you can feel that inside of you, there's nothing else but shifting that happens, that takes place.
And the key piece that for me that you just said, it is now the time to let it be free.
Yes.
That is for me the key piece. Let it be free.
Yeah. But do we know how to let it be free? That's
what we're working on, aren't we?
Thing, right? It's always the thing. But we do know that the first thing we need to do to detangle and let the divine fire become the most important thing in our lives is to understand what your morals and values are. Your intrinsic morals and values. Like, who are you as a human being? How authentic are you being in everyday life as a human being? Or are you just going along, right? Like, that's how we've gotten the name of sheep.
Yep.
It's so degrading, but yet we do nothing about it. How many of us are actually taking a stand, going outside the parameters and saying, oh, no, we're not going to do that any longer. Enough is enough. How many of us do that? Not too many.
And even if we do it in some aspects of our life, it's time to do it in all aspects of our life.
Agree. Because
it's not
that's
just
what
time
abundance
to be,
is.
Yeah, this is who I am here, but over here I'm something, it's own it completely and totally.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
Time to let the fire out. So another thing I think, or a second point I think that we can contribute to this, is the self-actualization, which we have been talking about all year long. Not being in that competitive kind of energy, and flow doesn't mean to follow. It means literally to lead who you are. And if other people need a follower, then let them at least follow something that has morals and values that actually help us grow as a human race versus controlling and dominating us as a human race. And so that self-actualization component, which we discuss over and over and over, and actual ways to become self-actualized, the first component of that is to know this divine fire that burns in you. Like, literally get to know it. What's it about? Why is it here? Third thing I think is the take action component. That what I, like, without taking action, we're not doing a damn thing. We're not making any change. We're not shifting any consciousness. We're not doing anything without that component. And flow has nothing to do with taking action.
Right.
If you're just going to sit back and let the world pass you by, then let it pass you by. I mean, you can be in flow that way, but that's not really what flow means. Flow means that you know what your divine fire is, you know what your passion is, you know where your morals, your values reside, and you stand by them. You support them, you cultivate them, you let them grow, but you stand by them, right? And so what I got this morning in the shower was that the feminine energy is literally here to lead. Like, your own feminine energy should be leading. And how do we lead? We lead through our morals, through our values, through our own personal standards. I can't count the number of people that I've worked with this year on personal standards, and they've all been women. Because we really haven't we're not taught personal standards.
No.
We're taught, well, I was taught as a younger child to just, let somebody else make the decisions. That usually was the masculine being in the family, the head of the hierarchy, but that's not, I was never like for that. I was like, okay, they can make decisions, but that doesn't mean I'm going to follow them.
And it even goes further than that, because I remember being in school and as a young person and being taught certain things. I can't give you the exact thing I was being taught, but questioning the validity of what I was being taught. Like, that doesn't align with me. And I asked questions and was pretty much always shut down. And then you'd go home and say, but they said this and it's not right. And then it was being taught to, well, go with the flow. That's the way it is. That's the way they teach. That's the way this works. And I think I'm bringing up the teaching aspect of it because I think that is one of the key components right now that we really, as a society, have to understand what we're going to tolerate and what we're not. Or finding our own way of being with that. That is dominance. That is control and dominance when it's got to go this way and you must follow the flow.
Yes.
We need to understand that people can ask a question, even when we move into our own individualized leadership role. That doesn't mean someone can't question.
Right.
Well, why are you doing this? Or can you tell me how you got here from here?
Right.
By being a leader doesn't mean you want to be in control and domination.
No, that's not
By
what
being
leading.
A leader means you're doing exactly. But a lot of people think that's who controls and dominates. And that's a big concept for people to understand. You don't have to lead a whole crew by being a leader. You can be your own individualized leader.
Well, I think that's the important component, right? Is that you're leading yourself, that you're not actually following somebody else because you're taught to follow someone else, that you're actually being the leader of who you are. That is what unity consciousness means, that you become unified, not unified with the whole world,
unified
but
with
you
yourself.
become unified, right? That's how, and the feminine leads by intuition, not by domination, control, and manipulation. Right? Like, we lead by, well, this is the best option for me. This is who I am. This is the divine fire that burns inside of me. And this is how I'm being led by my own self to play it out or to respond or to react. Right? Masculine energy is literally to support and to protect. Like, they aren't here to lead. And we're probably going to get a lot of questions about this. But here we are. This divine fire says, just reveal it already.
Wow.
That doesn't mean that masculines don't lead. Like, we're not saying that they don't have the power to lead. They do have the power to lead if they're using their intuition and they're protecting and supporting their own led self, their own intuitiveness, right? Like their own inner divine fire, right? But our roles, when we become androgynous, when we become that balance of both masculine and feminine, like we don't have to have, like I don't have to have a man in my life protecting and supporting my own intuitive knowing and leading myself. And a man in my life doesn't have to have me leading him. Like that's not what this is. We have to like sort of erase what we know about masculine and feminine. And we really have to move into something, a whole different paradigm, a whole different way of thinking and being in the relationship. Because now we are becoming the relationship. Like a unified being knows and understands all of those things, and they take action based upon their inner knowings, their authentic moral values, being in flow with who they are, not the rest of the world.
And I'm going to say it's a practice. You have to practice moving into this way of being. It isn't something that you just can, well, maybe some people can just do that, but most of us, it takes practice and being in a situation where we can go, oh boy, that I'm acting like, no, that's not me, but I'm following along that's what I think I'm supposed to do. So it's going to hit us in different ways at different times in our workspace, in our home space, in our play space. Once you become very aware of it, you can then do something about it. Mm-hmm. You can decide how you want to proceed. Is that comfortable being in the flow and going along? Well, if it is, then that's what you're going to decide. It's not for me. Yeah. And it's time that we all can see this and look at it.
Yeah.
And I've seen too many women. I'm just going to say this like this. I've seen too many women throughout my lifetime who, instead of moving into the leadership role of using their intuition, move into the leadership role of control and domination.
Yes. Great.
And just because they think they're feminine, they're a woman, they think that they're not in control and domination.
Yeah.
And doggone, they really are. So, pay attention to yourself as well there so that you understand it's a, I don't want to say slippery slope, but you need to be aware of it.
Yeah. Well, I've done that, right? Like when I was younger in my 20s and 30s, that was the only way to get to
anything.
Yeah. I mean, I've owned businesses since I've been 19 years old, multiple businesses, sometimes 2 and 3 businesses at a time, at one period of time. And the only way that I could actually get ahead in owning my own, being an entrepreneur, was sort of to fall into that area of authoritarian kind of mentality, right? I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly that I was playing that kind of a game, and that I learned how to flow within that game, right? In order to be successful. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that I was wrong. I mean, that doesn't,
no.
It's the whole awareness of it. Like I knew exactly what the heck I was doing. It's when we don't have any awareness of it that we sort of get swayed one way or another. Mm-hmm. But again, still not wrong. I think that the other thing here is that this is going to take a level of maturity that the human race has not experienced. And by maturity, this is the whole self-actualization component, right? Yes. Like being that mature adult self, it comes with, responsibilities is not quite the right word, but it does come with some responsibilities of knowing like who you are, right? Not making someone else's wrong just to make sure that you are right. Like that's not what maturity is. Wanting to win disagreements or at any cost, like that's domination, manipulation, and control.
Absolutely.
Blaming
Absolutely.
others, blaming others, again, domination,
Control.
manipulation, control, those kinds of things. That's not who we are becoming. And we have to be willing to give up those things in order to move into your own understanding of your divine purpose, the reason that you really are here, the real reason, like why we're shifting our consciousness. We can't stay in that mentality or the emotional mentality or the any of it. There's no shifting of consciousness if we aren't willing to take some steps here, some standards, create some personal standards to know what you value. What do you value in moral? And what are your morals in life?
That's a great exercise. That's a great way for people to start. It's a great exercise. What are my values?
Yeah.
What are my morals?
Yeah. We have to start listening to our internal wisdom, that intuition, like that, I feel, is the key. Like that will push you over the edge if you have any fear, if you have any blocks, is really understanding who you are, listening to that inner knowing, that inner wisdom, the inner being that you've always been, but maybe you have just ignored it. That's been kind of the whole thing throughout our lifetimes is we've never been taught to pay attention to the intuition, to that fire that burns in you that says, go this way instead of that way. We've never been taught to listen to that, at least not through the separation.
Or to trust it at all.
Yeah, or to trust it. Yes, agree. So I think this week is really about embracing that, like really, really embracing who you're here, why you're here, what your dreams are, like never really give up on your dreams. Never stop following that intuitive knowing, right? Like just, yeah.
It's really, asking, what is my inherent divine fire?
Yeah.
What is that for me? And it might take some little practices or tools to just dive into that and, make some lists if that's what you need to do. Go into meditation, take a walk outside, whatever it is that's going to, help you open up to understanding that. And then I just have a little caveat with that. It's only when you're working on you, you're only working on you.
Yes.
So it's about you, where you're at. And everyone else gets to do their own work.
Exactly.
You don't have to, you have to worry about if they're,
help them.
You don't have to worry if they're with the flow or if they're not, because as each of us becomes very aware of our divine fire and what that is, and everybody's moving in that same direction that works for them.
Yes.
It's a really beautiful thing that we get to do right now.
I know, but it's powerful. Like I know the entire consciousness is experiencing it at some level, this deep passion and fire that's burning inside of you to come out, to let it be free. Like this is where we are in the conscious evolution. This is where we are in the new earth paradigm right now, is all the foundations have been built for the new earth. It's literally, where do our morals and our values now reside within the foundation? And I can tell you, because I know these sort of things, that without you understanding morally and supporting your own values and morals, like that, the whole idea of New Earth is probably not going to land with you at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's how it is. So embrace your divine fire. Like that's the message this week, is
Absolutely.
to embrace that, be it, take action steps based on it, support yourself, lead yourself. Stop thinking that the world is here to, we are not all going to move together. It's not how unity works within yourself.
Mm-mm.
And if you don't have unity within yourself, you can never have unity outside of yourself. And it doesn't work. It just does not work.
No, it doesn't.
Humans have too many aspects about themselves in order for, us all to think one way or to be one way. Like that's not what humanity was created for.
No, not at all.
No.
No.
We are here to unify all of our bodies, our mental body, emotional body, our spiritual body, and our physical body. That's what unity is. That's what unity consciousness is. And your divine fire is the one that's leading the way. It's really your intuitive knowing about what's right and how to move forward in your own rightness. So,
well said. Love it.
thank you all for joining us here on the Blueprint today. And until next week, please like, share, and leave comments if you like. Take care.
Thank you for being with us today. To find out more about Angela, visit her website at www.angelablaha.com.